Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to head back to Eskilstuna and we're going to revisit a brewery that I've reviewed 2 or 3 things from now, and I have been quite impressed by the standard of the beer that these guys are producing. So we're going to return for the 3rd time, I believe it is, to Möllys Kvarterbryggeri or Möllys Brewery or Möllys Craft Beer, however you want to describe them, and we're having a taste of the Doom Warrior. So this one is an Imperial Black IPA or Double Black IPA, however you want to term it, coming in at 8.8% ABV, and it is hopped with Equinox and Mosaic, and it's named, or it's a tribute actually, to Messiah Markolin, who was the singer for Candlemass for a number of years. And it's a band, a Swedish metal band that I actually really like. I do enjoy a little bit of doom metal, but I also like things like Sabaton and Grand Magus and stuff like that. I like my folk metal, I like my doom metal, and I do like Sabaton. I guess some of the power metal stuff can be pretty good as well, but I am a big metalhead, of course, which maybe you guessed from the beard and the hair, so really cool to try this beer, which is a tribute to one of the singers of one of my favourite bands actually. So really looking forward to this one. It's a style of beer that you don't come across too often anymore. It's nowhere near as popular as it was a couple of years back, and it's one that I've always enjoyed when it's in the Imperial form. I always found that I enjoyed the Imperial Black IPAs a little bit more than the regular ones, and mainly because of the more malty, the kind of sweet malty content actually. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this beer then. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Möllys Kvarterbryggeri, the 3rd time I'm reviewing one of their beers. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Möllys Brewery then. So Möllys Brewery are based in Eskilstuna, as I mentioned to you earlier, which is a little bit out to the west of Stockholm, and the company was founded back in 2015 by Daniel Herdigen, who is half Swedish and half German. But apparently his father's German family can trace their brewing roots back to the 18th century, but they came from Erlangen, which is a little bit outside of Nuremberg, and Nuremberg, of course, is located in Franconia, which is the northern part of Bavaria, and it is a very, very famous brewing region. It has the highest density of breweries per head of population anywhere in the world. You're talking about 300 breweries just in this kind of small region of Germany actually. But he was actually born, he spent a lot of time with his family in Germany, but he was actually born when the family were living in Sweden, and he started off home brewing on a very small scale and then soon expanded to a 500 litre brew kit, producing around 25,000 litres of beer in 2018 with about 40 different beer sorts in total. But in early 2018 they produced this beer, which was for Messiah Markolin's 50th birthday. This is the Doom Warrior. They also have a special beer that's called Tompi as well, which was for his friend who he attended a lot of metal festivals with. His child unfortunately had cancer, so he produced that beer as well. And all of the labels that you'll find on the beers are produced by Daniel's brother Björn, which is kind of cool. They've got a very distinctive style of artwork. But yeah, the 3 beers that I've had from these guys I have been quite impressed with. The Duba La Bomba was a lovely coffee stout. The death metal Postcool was quite an interesting one. It was supposed to be a trip ale, that, but it was quite a, it was more like a very strong dark Belgian brown beer, that, but it was nice nonetheless. And I'm really curious to see how this black IPA turns out, because it does have quite an unusual hop profile, if you like, for a black IPA. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Möllys Brewery. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more, of course, you can check out the brewery website, and you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, and that'll keep you up to date with all the latest goings on at the brewery. So yeah, let's get rid of the brewery notes and we can get on to the tasting of this beer itself then. So yeah, this one, Imperial Black IPA, Double Black IPA, hopped with Equinox and Mosaic. Equinox normally will give you a kind of limey flavour. It's quite a lime sort of flavoured hop, that one, and Mosaic gives you mainly a tangerine orange, but also a little bit of a blueberry note, and it can give you a few other tropical fruits from what I remember too. But there you can see the nice artwork on this one. There you can see Messiah Markolin as an owl. He's quite known for his big hair, And there you can see, I don't know, the Doom Metal Tree, or I don't know if that's meant to be Yggdrasil or something like that. But yeah, plain black bottle cap on this one, and it says best before the 6th of June 2019. So I'm guessing this beer will have been in the bottle a couple of months actually. But Imperial Black IPAs, depending on what malt base is used, if you let them just sit a little bit, you can get some really nice flavours out of them, particularly when you get the more malty qualities coming out. But yeah, let's get this guy out then, and we'll get on with the tasting. I'm really curious just to see how this turns out. Nice little bit of smoke on the opening. You can smell some nice juicy fruits coming out of the beer as well actually. But we'll get this guy out and we'll see how we get on then. Just make sure the head doesn't go too crazy. I think it's going to be okay, to be honest. But yeah, there you go. So that looks really quite nice. As you would expect, this guy has poured a really dark, kind of ebony rosewood colour. If I hold it up to the light, it actually doesn't even have a, it doesn't even have like a sort of Coca-Cola edge to it where some of the light comes through. This one is pure ebony black. So yeah, I guess for a doom metal band that kind of suits, so maybe that was the idea. But yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass. You can see a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of the head. You could see that there was just over a finger, sort of a finger and a half maybe, of a frothy, I would say sort of mocha tan head. This one, I'd say that's a kind of mocha coloured head, to be honest with you, but it's quite a foamy head. You can see one or two bigger bubbles up at the top, but mainly quite a foamy head, this one. But you know, overall it looks pretty nice, and nothing particularly surprising about the appearance of this beer when you consider that it is a black IPA, and an Imperial Black IPA at that. So let's take a closer look at that aroma then and just see how we get on. That smells pretty nice actually, I have to say. So yeah, underneath this one, you can smell, in the backbone of this, it smells very smooth, this beer. That's the first thing I'm noticing about this. You can smell that it has got a nice little bit of an almost bready backbone to it, but definitely you can smell these roasty, toasty black malts in there. Yeah, so a nice smooth kind of bready quality, a little bit of a roasty, toasty black malt in there. You can smell that there's a little bit of a kind of, you can smell that there's a little bit of a brown sugary note as well, which is kind of interesting. It's got a little bit of a toasty caramel quality to it. So there is a good bit of a well-fired brown sugar in there. Nice little bit of a roasty, toasty note, as I'm saying. The malt base, it comes across as quite simple, to be honest. You know, it's pretty straight up. There is almost like a slightly boozy, cakey kind of thing in there too, if you take the aroma in a little bit more deeply. It does have a little bit of that kind of well-fired bread crust quality to it, which is interesting. So just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma before you get stuck in. On the hoppy side of things, it's interesting because you can smell some of the limey notes from the Equinox, which is what you'd expect. It's also got a little bit of a juicy tangerine orange in there as well, which again is what you would expect from the Mosaic. I didn't quite expect them to be as kind of straight up as that, to be honest with you. I thought they would be quite, I thought they would be quite, it would be a little bit different, to be honest with you. I thought it might kind of evolve more to be a little bit like a red fruit, as some of the other hops can be, such as Cascade and things like that. And I as far as I can remember, this is the first black IPA that I've had where it's definitely the first one for Equinox, but it might not be the first one I've had with Mosaic in it. But two, very well thought of hops actually. And you can smell there's a little touch of earthiness to this one, and you've also got a little bit of a floral aromaticity, but mainly it's the malty base. I would say that the aroma in this beer is quite mild in comparison to some other black IPAs that I've had, right enough. But we'll see how we get on. I'm sure, knowing this brewery, there will be a lot of there will be a hell of a lot of complexity in the flavour of this one. So let's just have a taste of this and see how we get on. But as I always say, take a little bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But this one is the Doom Warrior, an Imperial Black IPA at 8.8% from Möllys Kvarterbryggeri in Eskilstuna, just outside of Stockholm, or out to the west of Stockholm, I should say. Let's get stuck in. Slanja, Skål, Hail Candlemas. Yeah, that's interesting, this one actually. It's quite different from the other black IPAs that I've had. Whenever you think of the black IPA, the other style that always comes into my mind is the likes of the Schwarzbier or the the Czech Tmavy. And particularly the Czech Tmavy I've always found is a little bit kind of thicker and more bready than the German Schwarzbier is. The German Schwarzbier I think has a little bit more, it's a little bit more roasty, but at the same time it's not quite as bready as the Czech Tmavy. To me, this beer, it has a lot of the same, it has the kind of vibe about it of being a very, it's a very kind of, a sort of stronger Czech Tmavy, if you like. It does have the nice smooth breadiness actually, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, make no mistake about this. This is a really nice black IPA, I have to say. For me, I think they've got the base of this. Daniel's got the base of this one pretty much spot on. I really like what he's done here. To me, though, there's just something in my head that's saying this has a little bit of a kind of Czech Tmavy vibe about it, and I really like that about it because I really, over the last year or so, I've really kind of begun to appreciate the Czech beers a little bit more. I think he's done a nice job of this beer, so thumbs up to Daniel once again. I think he maybe has a little bit of a knack for producing dark beers, to be honest with you. He does seem to produce some really interesting dark beers. His Double La Bomba was a beautiful stout, and this is a really nice black IPA actually. What I will say about this one is within that black IPA category as well, it does lean more towards the roasty toasty side of things, and it's one of the things I've always liked about the Imperial black IPAs is that you can stick a little bit of caramel in there and just give it that little touch of sweetness, which I think balances them out a little bit better. This one doesn't quite have that, but this one takes a different route, if you like. It uses the kind of smoothness of the bready side of the malt, which is interesting. But yeah, the thing I'm noticing too is that this is it's actually a very juicy, it really is quite a juicy black IPA, this, which is kind of unusual, but this beer really does works. There's a lot of things in this beer that I'm kind of thinking, well, that's quite unusual for the style, but I like this. I really do quite like this one. And this is what you want, you want beers that are going to test your palate a little bit. When you've reviewed like 1,600 odd beers, nearly 1,700 now, you do want beers that are going to make you think a little bit about what's going on. But to me, this one gets a thumbs up. I really do quite like this beer actually. So let's try and break this one down a little bit then. So what you're going to notice with this beer straight away, it has this really nice, smooth, bready quality to it. The further you go into the aftertaste, the more that evolves to get some of the kind of roasty, toasty elements of the black malt out of it. It almost feels like a really, really well fired, almost charred bread crust. You can really feel the centre of your palate just drying out in this one. But that smoothness from the malt base just kind of remains there, which is really nice. And again, the smoothness that this beer has, it does remind me of the Czech Tmavies, the Czech black lager beers, and I like that aspect about it. It's a little bit of a nostalgia thing for me. But yeah, I like how everything, I really like the kind of backbone that this beer has, to be honest with you. It is a little bit different because normally these beers, it does have the roasty toasty element to it, but normally you wouldn't quite expect the same level of bready smoothness from this style. So yeah, it's a little bit quirky in that regard, I think. In the very centre of your palate, you can pick out some of the boozier notes in this beer. Yeah, and I'm really finding it really is quite juicy, this beer, which is interesting. In the middle of your palate, there is a little bit of a brown sugar note there. Not too much, and I mean, usually the other black IPAs, one of the best black IPAs I've ever tried was the Toil Black Malts and Body Salts. That's just a beautiful, beautiful example of the style. And the thing that I really liked about that was the fact that it had some of that caramel in there. And this one has a little bit of it, but as I say, that it's really taking another approach to smoothing out the beer. There's a lot of these black IPAs that are just, they've got the black malt there and it's just, roasty as hell. And I think, to me, I'm not a great fan of that. But this one does have a little bit of the brown sugar note in there. It's more of a biscuity note than a straight up caramel, to be honest with you. You do get a little touch of an almost McVitie's digestive note out of this beer. But the malt base is very straight up, that smooth bready note. The roasty black malts come out the further you go into the aftertaste, and you've got a little bit of a kind of biscuity flavour in the middle of your palate too. And the middle of your palate really does dry out, and the roasty notes push their way out further. Push their way out more the further you go into the aftertaste. The centre of your palate in this one really is Very, very nice actually. So thumbs up to Möllys Kvarterbryggeri for the way they've kind of pulled off the way this beer comes across. It really does remind me a little bit of a Czech Tmavy actually, so a completely different approach compared to other breweries. On the hoppy side of things though, back corners of the palate, you have got a little touch of earthiness in there. As you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, that spreads forward a little bit, but you do get a little touch of a floral aromaticity at the front corners of the palate. Then round the very front curve of the tongue, you've got a little bit of a lighter kind of grassy note in there too, which is nice. But yeah, I like how I like the fruity side of this beer. The fruity side is really very, very quirky in this one, and it certainly does work actually. This beer, to me, the Equinaut is the one that's kind of pushing its way out more, and this beer, it does have a good level of juiciness. I mean, you can feel the juiciness from the fruity side of the beer just pushing its way back all over the, you know, over the whole top of your palate, to be quite honest with you. You really can feel this limey quality just almost overtaking the beer, and that is, it's very unusual in that regard. So the Equinaut for me is the hop that's really pushing its way out a little bit more. There is a little bit of an orangey quality to this one from the Mosaic, right enough, but yeah, I mean, as I always say, you get that oily bubble behind the front curve of your palate, and that's where the juicy fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. But yeah, you'll feel with this one, when you take this beer in, the limey, juicy notes of the beer really spread all the way towards the back of the tongue. It's really strange how it does that, but it works really nicely. As I say, that's the limey flavours, and towards the front of the palate, you do get a little bit of that tangerine orange note, but for me, it's not overly present. You really have to look for it a little bit to find it. So to me, this is quite a limey. It really is quite a limey black IPA, this, but it certainly does. It works. I mean, it's an unusual combination of things in this beer, but that's what you want, as I say, from beers. But it's a top quality black IPA, this one. Definitely in terms of the Imperial black IPAs, it's not the sweetest one I've come across, but it has a lovely smoothness to it. And I've just noticed on the side there that it says it's got wheat malt in it, so that would kind of make sense, to be honest with you. That is, if you use wheat malt in the beer, it really smooths out the malt base. And that would make sense as to why this one is quite smooth. But like I say, it really reminds me a little bit of a Czech Tmavy in some regard. But yeah, the way that all the flavours in this beer go together, the way that they combine, is really nice. It's an unusual combination of flavours, but it really works actually. And that's what craft beer is all about. It's all about experimenting and trying different things. This is the first time I've had Equinaut in a black IPA, and it's worked out really well, and it might be one of the first times that I've had Mosaic in it as well. So yeah, big thumbs up to Möllys Brewery for this one. They produce a really quite nice beer here that makes me think of some other styles and some other unusual combinations and things like that. So have a go at this one for yourself and see what you think. If you like this style, I think you will enjoy this one, and you'll also find it a little bit quirky as well, which is obviously what you want. So in terms of the mouthfeel of this beer then, I would say this beer is definitely mid-bodied. Carbonation is very, very smooth with this one. You will notice that about these Möllys beers actually. They do tend to lean towards the smooth side of things. They have got a very smooth mouthfeel, and I think I've said that about all three of the ones that I've tried so far. The water almost feels just a little bit thicker, if that makes sense. They've got a kind of smooth... There is an element of oiliness in there, but mainly it's a kind of smooth quality. It's almost like the beer's been poured out of one of these English casks, if you like. It does have a little bit of an almost cask-pulled beer vibe about it, actually. So you will notice that about the Möllys beer. It's very, very smooth. Carbonation's very smooth, like I said. This beer... yeah, smooth, but a little bit oily, a little bit of wetness in there as well. But mainly a kind of smooth beer. It has a good little bit of an impact, this one. There is a little bit of sharpness on the impact there from the limes, from the limey notes from the Equinaut for me. But the malt base has a good balance between the roasty toasty note, although that does become more prominent the further you go into the aftertaste. But it's got a lovely smoothness in there as well, which, as I say, reminds me of the Czech Tmavies a little bit. But it's got a good IBU to it, this one. I would think you're talking around 70 or maybe 80 IBUs for this beer. It does have a good little bit of a kind of bitter kick to it, and that's both from the hops and from the malt base, I would say. Nice bit of juicy fruitiness to this one. As I say, the limey notes are the ones that are kind of sticking out for me. It does have a little bit of that kind of tangerine orange note. I'm not really getting any of the blueberry out of this one that you can sometimes get from Mosaic, but a nice juicy fruity character to this one, a little bit sharp, and also some nice hoppy bitterness and some roasty toastiness as well. But overall, a really nice beer, this one, and I was glad I was able to review this for you. It's always cool to try black IPAs from different places, and this is, as I say, it's a style that you don't get too many of these days, so do keep the black IPA recommendations coming in, and also the Schwarzbier and Tamavi recommendations too, black lagers. I always enjoy reviewing those as well, so do keep some suggestions of those coming in the description below. But yeah, a really nice beer, this one, another one that I've been impressed with from Möllys Kvarterbryggeri. And I'm sure I'll review more from these guys as time goes by. But it was really cool to review the one for Messiah Markeline's 50th birthday. I wasn't sure I'd be able to get this one, but somehow Systembolaget still had a few of them in the warehouse. So there we are. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Möllys Kvarterbryggeri as well. And I'm sure I'll catch you guys with more reviews from Möllys Brewery in the fairly near future. Make sure you check out Candlemass as well if you haven't. Really awesome Swedish doom metal band. They're a bit like Black, I guess the way to describe doom metal is it's a little bit like Black Sabbath, but they put organs and stuff like that in there, which is kind of cool. So check out Candlemass if you get the chance. A really awesome Swedish metal band. And yeah, have a go at this beer and see what you think. But thank you again for watching. I will catch you guys very soon. This is the Doom Warrior, an Imperial Black IPA at 8.8% from Möllys Brewery in Eskilstuna, just outside of Stockholm, out to the west of Stockholm here in Sweden. Until the next time, Slanja just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slanja, skål.